Testing. Can you guys hear me now?
All right. Yes, Megan, I can hear you now.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on with that. Hey, Alexander. Hi, Leah. How are you guys?
Oh man, I thought I was about to exit, right? And
no, I'm sorry. Apparently, I'm having some mic issues this morning.
I was just saying that the music add-on was nice, right?
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for that feedback.
But and then I see you speak, but I can't hear you, so I said, okay, where's the problem? Is it me? Or?
No, that's me. That's me having the issues over here today. You know, just a typical Thursday. It's time for the weekend, right? So here's what I was thinking. So, you know, these meetings are typically a lot larger, and so we have the typical format to accommodate that. We anticipated the show maybe a little bit smaller because it's more of it's a diversified investor group. So with that, I still want to walk through the presentation this morning simply because we are actually recording these to use those presentations as assets for our investor specific content pages.
Sure.
But I think you guys have probably already seen majority of it. It is about the series LLC. That's what we're doing in all of them this week. And then the more diversified portion actually comes through the discussions in the Q&A. So I'm thinking, why don't we do this? I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll just run through the slide deck, run through it quickly, and then we'll just have an extended Q&A at the end and tackle any questions you guys have. That sound good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So don't let me bore you too much. Feel free to read a novel while we're walking through this presentation if that's useful, whatever you want to do. All right, let me share my screen and we'll get going. Hey, Charlie, just like hop in, bud. How are you?
We love Charlie. Sorry, I got in a little late this morning.
Oh, you're good, my man. I had mic problems for like 10 seconds. I mean, I was a hot minute before I could get it going. So you're good. Charlie, what I was saying is we're going to run through the presentation. I think a lot of it's going to be information you've heard before, but we are recording these for some digital assets for our website. Okay. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end and tackle anything you guys have.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, it looks like I don't have permission to, oh, no, there it is. Okay.
All right.
All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that screen, guys. Awesome. You guys are fantastic. Okay, so good morning, everybody. So my name is Megan Templeton. Today we are going to be talking about what it looks like to use a series LLC if you are an investor who has a diverse portfolio. So if you are involved in multiple type of assets, so things like short-term rentals, long-term rentals, cash, stocks, crypto, really having that portfolio that you're not focused on one niche, this is going to be the time for you. So let's hop into it. So we've got here, we are going to be talking about the series LLC as discussed, and a little bit of background about myself and Royal Legal. So like I said, my name is Megan Templeton. I am a consulting attorney here at Royal Legal. I've been with Royal Legal for about 4 years or so. but I've been doing real estate and small business entrepreneur law for much longer. So definitely an area that I'm passionate about. Also have a good bit of experience in starting, running, selling, maintaining businesses, as well as real estate investments. Now, Royal Legal, we've been around for about 9 years. We do operate in all 50 states. We've got clients nationwide, and we've helped protect over $2 billion in assets. So we've seen a lot of edge cases. We know the different ways that this can go for you. We want to use that knowledge to tailor your experience here to make sure that you are fully covered in the way that your portfolio needs to be. So as we talk about that, we start thinking about what does it look like for your portfolio, your assets to be covered from a liability standpoint. You know, the things that are going to put you at risk, you know, obviously that are going to feed into a lawsuit are going to be things like having property or assets in your personal name, relying solely on insurance, lack of compartmentalization. So that means if you have all of your assets in one bucket, for example, having them one LLC, what's going to happen at that point if one asset is litigated against, the rest of your assets are at risk. So if you have, for example, one property that's worth $50,000, but you've got a house with the rest of your assets with a value worth of $3 million, you've suddenly got that entire $3 million pool at risk as well. So lack of anonymity is another one. If you are not protecting yourself, keeping your name out of the public record, something that is someone could go online, they could do a quick Google search, figure out how much you own, that's going to put you at a greater risk for a lawsuit. Personal exposure to lawsuits, that's what comes from things like having no anonymity and also having things inside of your personal name. And then the last one that I like to point out is if you have got a bunch of LLCs, if you're operating from this kind of system where you've got an LLC here, a trust here, another LLC in a different state, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of entities at play. And inside of that, your operations becomes extremely complicated. Anytime you've got a complicated structure from an operational standpoint, there's more margin for error. So we want to streamline everything. We want to make it where you've only got one type of bookkeeping, one type of tax filing. Really want to make sure it's condensed as much as it can so you eliminate as much risk as you possibly can. A good example of this is one of our clients here, RLS. We've worked with it for the past couple of years. Before they came to RLS, had the unfortunate experience of having a lawsuit that did strip them of $3 million assets because they had a breach of contract issue. They had a bunch of assets in their own name. And so when one asset came into play through that breach of contract, their entire portfolio was wiped out. So our goal here at Royal Legal is to make sure that we take all of those assets, protect them from you, protect them for you, streamline them, and make sure that it's not going to happen to you. So the question about lawsuits we get a lot is, well, I don't feel like I'm going to be litigated against. I run everything above board. Why should I be concerned about this? When it comes to being an investor, particularly in the real estate field, it's not so much about if you're going to be litigated against, it's going to be when are you litigated against. If you were an investor for 20 plus years, the stats say you have a 92% chance of having a lawsuit come against you. That does not mean it's going to be an honest lawsuit. I mean, I think we all know working from third parties, people can misunderstand concepts. They can not fully understand what the truth about a concept is. And so you're going to have a litigious person come against you who may be able to sway the facts or not understand the facts, but you're going to end up with a lawsuit in your lap that you're going to have to explain away. So we want to try to stop that from starting as much as we can. So when we're looking at that, you want to treat lawsuits as a business. Now you'd be maybe saying, Megan, what does that mean? I don't want to, invest in lawsuits, obviously. It's not quite what we're talking about. So what happens when you have a lawsuit filed against you and you take it to an attorney? The equation the attorney is going to use to start thinking about whether this is a case they want to take on is what is your claim size? So how much can be recovered from this lawsuit, as well as what is the probability of collecting on it? So if you've got someone who's coming against you, they're meeting with an attorney and they tell that attorney, I've had this injury, I've got $1 million in damages. I want to recover from this person. The next thing the attorney is going to do is going to look at you. They're going to try to find as much information about you as they can and figure out what assets you own to see if they can recover that $1 million if the judgment goes their way. Now, regardless if a claimant says they're looking for that $1 million, if the attorney can't find anything connected to you, nothing they can recover on, it's likely going to shut that lawsuit down. So that's where we come into play. We can't really control claim size on the front end, but we can control the probability of collecting. And we do that by making sure you do not own assets personally. And the thing that comes into play with that is a lot of folks will say, well, I don't know that I need this. It's okay for me to own assets personally because I've got a really generous insurance policy. The issue and downfall of that you're going to run into is that you are putting your future in the hands of a corporation. You're putting your future in the hands of that insurance corporation, hoping that they are going to pay out as much as they can to make any of your issues go away. And that's not something I would feel comfortable with. It's not an area I would trust to someone else. So with an insurance company, you're paying your monthly premiums, but they're hoping to keep that money inside of their pockets. If they have to pay out on any types of claims, they're going to be giving that money back, and then that's going to decrease their value of their company. So for insurance, what we tell people is it's a great first line of defense. Definitely recommend having it, but I would not trust it to be the end all be all. You want to make sure you've got a second layer of defense, which is where you don't own your assets. One of the things we like to say here at Royal Legal is that rich people do not own things and they do not pay taxes. Now, that sounds like a dream, right? So how do we accomplish it? We make sure that you don't own things by stripping assets out of your personal network. And then we make sure that you don't pay taxes by getting you to put together with the right team who can minimize your tax burden by using things like deductions, investment vehicles, real estate professional designations, those type of things, so that when it comes to tax time, you're filling out that paperwork, you're working with your CPA, you're going to be able to take a quick glance at it and see that you have reduced that burden on you heavily. So what's the bigger picture in this? So, LLCs, they're a comprehensive system that help you do a couple things. One, achieve financial freedom. You're going to have that income coming in, so you've got more time, more money to spend on things you want to do. It is going to help you reclaim your time. You're not going to have to worry about your structure and your business activities as much if you've got it set up correctly. It's going to protect your assets in case there are any events that come up and someone's trying to come after what you worked so hard for. We're going to make sure they can't capture it. And then it's also going to build your legacy. And the way we do that is we put estate planning at the top of all of our structures that we use. So anything that you work today to build can be passed on to your loved ones and friends in the way that you want it to later on down the road. So it's really a comprehensive type of structure, and the tenets that we use to build that, you'll see it, we call it the 5 pillars of asset protection, is going to be that anonymity, like we talked about, making sure you are not able to be Googled and someone find out what you own. Liability, so we're going to use those liability protection structures. Separation, we're going to use compartmentalization to make sure you don't have all your assets grouped together. And that also comes into the isolation factor. You're going to isolate one asset per entity. And you may be thinking, well, man, that's going to make it really difficult. How do I streamline that? We're going to get into that for you. And then insurance is going to be another pillar for you. Like we said, it's not your only layer of defense, but it is a good layer of defense to have. So what is the Series LLC? What does that mean to you as an investor who has multiple types of assets? Let's talk about it. Couple key features I think it's important to understand about the Series LLC from the jump. One, it is something that is infinitely scalable. So if you are a diversified investor, that means you've already got more than one asset and probably asset class. Inside of that, we want to separate it out. We want you to continue to be able to grow as much as you possibly can with your business. So we want to create a structure that grows with you. Series LLC allows you to do that. It allows you to continue to grow and add those individual entities without the burden of multiple filings or multiple bookkeeping systems. Kind of leaning into that is you do have just one bank account, one set of accounting records for that Series LLC. So the way it works is everything does flow through the parent, that top entity that you're working out of. And so you can use that top entity as your hub for things like banking and bookkeeping. You do not have to have one per child series. One entity to form and maintain, that's that top layer. So it's only one filing with the Secretary of State, one fee with the Secretary of State, regardless of how many child series you set up underneath of it to contain those multiple assets. And it can be formed in any state that you choose and used in any, or excuse me, it can be formed in one state and used in any state. So there are a couple states where we can form it, but you can use it nationwide because of something called the full faith and credit clause. So let's get into that a little bit more. What is the full faith and credit clause? So that is what allows a Texas Series LLC or any state that the Series LLC can be formed in to make sure it is going to hold up and not be pierced by the courts. Full faith and credit clause of the Constitution protects it because it says that you can form something in one state, use it in another. It has been challenged in court cases, so there's precedence for it being upheld. And then obviously you've got the legislative holding of it as well. In the past 20 years, there's only been one court case that challenged the series LLC, and it ended up siding for the series, upholding, saying it was a solid structure. So this is not a structure we're concerned about it being an issue with the court saying it's not valid or trying to dissolve it in any way. We are confident it's going to work for you and it's going to be the best solution for you because it's also streamlined. Now, inside of that, if you are an RLS customer and if you have any concerns, anything ever comes up questioning the setup, then we will come alongside you and make sure we resolve that for you. But we don't anticipate any issues ever coming up for it. Next question is, why do you need it? Do you need it? If so, when do you need it? So it's kind of hitting that who, what, why, and how series of questions. So let's move into those. If you are an investor who is just getting started, so, say at the beginning of your career when you didn't have any assets, you really didn't have any business activities, had good credit, weren't looking to improve upon that credit, you can get away with not having LLCs at that point. You're still in the planning stage. But once you move out of that planning stage, even as soon as you get your first asset, you want to start thinking about what is a scalable system for me. If you've got just one asset, it might be a good time to have just a traditional LLC to test out the waters, particularly if you don't foresee yourself adding any other assets anytime soon. That traditional LLC is going to accomplish the things we're looking for. It's going to protect your good credit. It's going to build your credit. It's going to save on taxes, and it's going to give you that liability protection. Now, the moment you have your second asset, if you put it into that one singular LLC you've already got an issue because you're not compartmentalizing and you're putting all assets at risk if one were to be litigated against. So what we tell folks is if you've already got multiple assets, or if you think you will be acquiring multiple assets quickly or in a very organized manner, let's go ahead and set a series up on the front end. Let's get that structure that is scalable set up as soon as we can so we know what our planning can look like. Because when you're going to use that series LLC, you're going to get that separation like we're talking about. You can protect all kind of soft assets as well, so cash, stocks, etc., which you guys are probably investing in. You can isolate the hard assets like property, boats, vehicles, things like that. And it's also great for preventing judgment spillover. So we like to say, let's start it early, let's start it right. So the series is a good choice early on if you think you're going to be an investor who is heavily involved. If you've got one-off asset, let's talk about that and figure out the best solution for you. So what does the series LLC structure look like? I've given you a lot of background information. Functionally, what does it look like though? And so you'll see here on the right-hand side of my slide deck, we've got the diagram overviewing it. So up here at the top, you've got your parent series LLC. That is the entity that is formed with the Secretary of State. So it'll have the paperwork where it tells you what the LLC name is, who the member is going to be. And it's also going to have a little clause in there about how it is a series LLC. And so inside of that clause is what allows us to create these child series down here below. So you'll see we've got 3 different ones here now. So for example, in child series A, we've got below it a land trust and then property A, and then B and C do the same. So what that looks like functionally though, we form the parent series at the top, and then we move down to the bottom. So the next question I would be asking if I were looking at this diagram first glance is, okay, well, when I get to the child series level, do I need to file something else with the Secretary of State or pay another fee? You do not. Child series documents are internally held. That's part of what makes them so infinitely scalable is you do not have to file with anyone. You do not have to pay any additional fees. So regardless of where you are in your business, you're not going to have the extra burden of having that time of filling out those forms, and also the expense of paying those fees. Those are internally held. So that also means you've got anonymity in that, and people are not going to know exactly where that asset is being held. We do use it in conjunction with a land trust, which gives another layer of anonymity on the deed side of things. So we make sure we add that section in there as well. But this is kind of the high level overview. Now, the part I also want to loop in here is this anonymous trust, which you'll see over here to the left of the parent series LLC box. So you may be asking, what is this anonymous trust? Is it like a living trust? Is it an estate planning tool? Not this particular one. What we're hitting at with this anonymous trust at the top level, that is what's going to be the member of your series LLC. So when someone goes to pull up your paperwork on the Secretary of State's website, it's going to show the name of your series LLC, and it's going to name a trust as the member. What that means functionally is your name is not listed on that paperwork. So people are not going to be aware that you're connected to the series LLC. The only way they could figure that out is if they had the trust document, and that trust document is not publicly filed. It's not recorded anywhere. It's also privately held. And so when we create those trusts, you keep the trust agreement, the trust name goes on the series LLC formation paperwork, and that's the only thing that becomes public. So what are the benefits of this? You've got it created with and maintained with anonymity. You've got attorney-client privilege. You get to operate from streamlined operations with things like one bank account, one bookkeeping records, one tax filings, and it's a scalable system. You can add as many of these child series as you wish without it moving into additional filings or additional time and fees. So then my question would be, well, how do I pay taxes on this thing? Is it going to increase my tax burden every year because I'm going to have a higher filing fee with my CPA, a prep fee, if you will? No, these series LLCs are also extremely easy from a tax perspective. So it's if you are single or if you are married in a community property state, it's going to be a disregarded entity and it's going to go on your Schedule C and E, depending on the type of income it is, which your CPA can walk you through. If you are unmarried or married in a separate property state, then it functions like a typical partnership return where there are K-1s issued. So these are simple systems as far as taxes go. They are intended to have minimal tax prep on you. And it's also something that your CPA should be able to pick up and run with quickly because it's a standardized type of structure. So frequent asked questions in this is, will my CPA understand what to do? They absolutely should. It should not be a difference from what they do in their day-to-day. Now, if you are a real estate investor, what we do tell folks, though, it is great to work within a CPA who is specialized in your area because they're going to be more aware of things like the deductions you can take and the designations you can claim, that type of thing. But any CPA, the one you've been working with for 20 years should be able to pick this up and run with it. Relatedly, do they need any special accounting software? They don't. We have a lot of folks who just use things like QuickBooks or Stessa, whatever it may be that your personal preference is, but you can streamline and maintain it there as well. And then the last one is, this sounds too good to be true. Why is everyone not using the series LLC then? And I think the best answer to that is because it is not the way it has always been done. Excuse me. So historically, folks have just used a bunch of different LLCs, kind of this hub and spoke model to do it. Now we are moving to the series LLC. It's becoming more popular. So I think you're going to see more folks moving to that type of model, but it's going to take the professional world a little bit longer to catch on to that, which is why I do not think you're seeing it as mainstream now, but I think there's going to be a big shift in that, particularly in the next few years. So now, what does the series LLC look like as a whole inside of your entire asset protection structure? The series LLC is great for liability protection, but we want to make sure we also include it with the full scope of things like estate planning and also these retirement investment vehicles. So what I would recommend is, working with your personal asset advisor to go over things like, what does my estate plan look like? Do I have a living will, a living will, living trust? Do I have my power of attorneys, things like that in place? If you were someone who has a net worth of 20 million plus and you're really looking to save and shield assets, the offshore trust is a good option for you. So make sure you're working with your advisor on that portion of it. Things that can really save you on taxes and prepare for your future. Things are going to be like the solo 401k as well as the self-directed IRA. Highly recommend looking into those. And then, you want to continue to work and invest in areas that are going to allow you to build the series LLC out even more. So if you are the diversified investor, that's going to be things like figuring out how to work on the various platforms for these assets. If it is a hard asset, if it is a soft asset, where does that go and how does it need to be titled to move inside of the series LLC? And that is going to vary based on what that asset is. But we can always put it in a child series for the most part. It's just figuring out exactly how to do that. And your protection advisor can definitely help you with that. So here at the end, we've just got a couple of reviews from our clients as well as a case study. Highly recommend you check those out. These are folks who have been with us for a while. You can see that it's a variety of different type investment profiles. So take a read of those. And then here at the end, you'll see that we've got our Royal Legal quiz. So where I think this quiz adds a lot of value to you is this is where we collect the information to tailor the information we're giving to you. So as someone who's coming into Royal Legal, this quiz is going to allow you to put your information in. Our team will then review it and make sure you're connected with the right information, the right assets, and the right advisor for you so they can tailor your experience, make sure your portfolio is addressed as an individual portfolio. So highly recommend taking that quiz. Thank you guys so much for today. And then we'll hop right now and we'll go into the Q&A section. Let me stop sharing this. All right. Hey, Chris, how are you? I see you joined us, bud.
Hey, how's it going? Let me get
Good,
you
good.
up here.
No, you're good. Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of a different format today since it's a smaller group. We didn't do breakout groups on the front end. We've kind of just gone through the presentation. And I was explaining to Leah and Alexander the reason we still did the presentation, even though I think, including yourself and Charlie, everybody here has seen it already. We are also recording these videos to use them as persona specific landing pages for our website. And so inside that, the Q&As will be recorded. So if you've got any questions top of mind, you wish you had known when you came into Royal, throw them out. We'll give you a quick answer because it's also going to be a good resource for new folks who want to come in with us.
No, repetition builds retention. And also every time I see that drawing and that chart, it just puts good feelings in me because I love organization, and it just
there you go.
The OCD in me just loves that.
There you go.
Just curious about the series LLC. I know it's, what is it, just Texas and Delaware, you said, are the two states where you create them?
So Texas, Delaware, Wyoming, and Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, clearly most of the time wherever you're creating it, you probably have rental property or assets in other states. Typically if you're doing business within a state, you got to foreign qualify it if you don't want any protection. So would you foreign qualify, or do you foreign qualify? And if you do, is it the parent or that specific baby?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the most part, you shouldn't have to do any foreign qualifications. When that's going to come in is if you have to take an in-state action where the Texas comptroller or whatever comptroller of the state would look at it and say you have specific business in that state. That's going to look like things like boots on the ground, if you have a brick and mortar, or if you have to take an in-state action like an eviction. So if that's the case, at that point, what we do is we work to get the foreign qualification for the individual child series, because you don't want to qualify the rest of them for that because you're going to get hit with a ton of fees. So one of the questions we do get a lot is, well, why don't I go ahead and just do this foreign qualification on the front end, get all my ducks in a row in case anything comes up. We don't do it proactively because you are going to get hit with those in-state fees yearly and you may never need them. And those in-state fees can range in what they are. They can be anywhere from $75 to $200. But if you're paying $200, on 5 different child series LLCs every year and you're not using them, it's just a waste of money. So we typically say, wait until you need to do like an eviction or you do want to have boots on the ground there. But no, as a general rule, you're not going to have to do that foreign qualification.
Okay. Is there a risk? And I truly don't know I'm not challenging you. I just truly don't know the answer. But yeah, if you're not qualified over there, could it be argued that you had no right to work there to begin with? You know what I mean? Like if you're in a lawsuit and you have no rights here because you weren't a business here when the action against you or that happened, if you know what I'm saying. Is that an issue or?
Yeah, no, so not an issue. By the time you're in a lawsuit, we've done the foreign qualification. But if someone's trying to look retroactively back at it and say, at the time of this inciting event, you weren't qualified, what our response to that is going to be is you can hold property remotely. And there are statutes that say that. There's court precedents that says that. So the ability to own that property remotely is always going to be upheld. Now, if you did try to go through the lawsuit without the foreign qualification, you're going to get pinged. But we'll always make sure that care occurs before then.
Okay. I have a question because I heard this a long time ago and I haven't really seen it out there. And I'm wondering if it would work in this model. And it's kind of flipping it. Right now, the way you have it is you have a land trust and it just gets directly passed down, to the child. But if instead you had the trust doing business, and I know trusts don't have asset protection, but then the trust, the beneficial interest of the trust is an LLC or a series or an protected entity.
Yeah.
So you get the anonymity, but then you also are definitely the trust is the one doing business, and just the fact of being a beneficiary, yeah, I would assume doesn't mean that you're doing business in that state. So is that something that you've seen done or think might be interesting or am I not?
Yeah, so let's I'm going to repeat back to you what I kind of heard and give an example that we use for RLS, and you tell me where I'm off base at. So your thought is have the trust kind of be the public facing one, have that be the anonymous entity that's doing all these activities, have the trust hold the asset, and then the beneficiary of that trust is an LLC. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's actually akin to what we do with the land trust we use. So if you were to pull up, say XYZ property for us would be owned by XYZ Trust, and that's what the deed's going to be listed as. And so inside of that, then if you looked at the internal documents for that trust, it is going to flow up to an LLC. That's how we connect it to the series LLC. Is that kind of what you're hitting at?
It is, but I guess where the one difference would be, and I didn't really state this earlier, is the bank account would actually be in the name of the trust. So it's the one conducting the business. Transactions are done in its name rather than flowing it down. And now you could say, well, the series is doing business because it says all the transactions, everybody's checks and stuff are in that name, but everything is in the name of that trust. The trust is the one doing the business. And if you ever get in trouble, yeah, go ahead and sue the trust. It flows down the beneficial interest, who is the one responsible, and that's the LLC, which gives you that level of protection. I'm partially thinking this is because I live in California,
Gotcha.
and I know you have the DSTs and such like that, and I'm happy to consider that too. But the LLC, it's just I figure if it's a beneficial interest only. And it's also behind the scenes too, so it could be switched out at some point as well, although the flow through and out might ruin that. But I don't know, I just thought of it as a thought. I heard it a while ago and I never got it fleshed out.
Yeah, so the challenges you're going to run into that is if you do, one bank account per land trust, if you scale, and particularly, I know at your level, you're going to have your operations is a mess. Yeah, so we don't do it for that reason. And the other thing, if you were trying to get around the franchise tax in California by having the land trust as these public facing entities, because it still flows through to an LLC, you're still going to get pinged with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take the LLC completely out of the structure before California is going to say you're above board.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up. That's a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, what else can I answer for you guys? Leah, Charlie, Alexander, you guys have any questions?
I have a question. I guess then, does the structure really make sense if you don't have rental properties? Like you pretty much start first by having a rental property and then kind of protecting everything. It's not really as useful if you just have various brokerage accounts or, crypto, your wallet and stuff. It doesn't really fit, does it?
No, I think it's still a good use of it. And the reason being, so, if you're dealing with things like these corporate stock accounts, things like crypto, you don't necessarily have an outside actor that's going to come after your business assets at that point, right? You're not really you're not going to have a tenant. But what you do still have is personal liability. So for example, if I kept my stocks, my crypto in my name, and I were to go get in a car wreck tomorrow and get litigated against, and so at that point, anything that's in my name, they're going to be able to capture. So holding those assets inside of an asset protection structure is still removing them from you. So if I go out personally as Megan and take hold of any liability, they still can't capture my assets. So I think it's definitely still worth it. It is a different view of how it has become worth it, and the level of risk involved inside of that. But I definitely would still recommend it. When you start getting into things like stocks and crypto and some of these soft assets, we do have to look a little bit differently about how we hold it. But not only are you going to get personal liability compartmentalization inside of that, it also is going to streamline your estate planning stuff. And you're going to be able to take hold of some tax deductions inside of that. So we definitely still recommend it for the diversified asset investor, even if you're not doing real estate.
And you can still add real estate into the structure if that is, comes along, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So these structures are set up so you can hold a multitude of type of assets in it and as many as you want to. So like you said, if you start out in real estate, decide to move into something else, we'll put the other things in there. And then if you get back into real estate and we're on Child Series Z, we'll just drop it in there.
So does that mean that, let's say, I have various IRAs and things like that, or accounts? Does everything end up just being renamed under an LLC and you're sort of doing all these name changes and such? Is it like a super complicated thing, or it's not?
Yeah, it depends on the type of asset it is, like retitling crypto versus if you've got things like jewelry you want to figure out how to protect. It just really is going to be dependent on what type of asset it is, but I wouldn't say any of it's too complicated. Most of it you'll be working with third-party providers to do so, like, the platform you've got crypto on or whoever holds your retirement accounts. But it can be a streamlined, pretty quick, easy thing to do. It just varies on how it's done.
Got it. Okay, well, that's good information. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah. And kind of related to that, just going to address one of the questions we do get a good bit here at Royal Legal is how do I protect those type of assets? Like it may be my art or it might be my high value jewelry and things like that I can't retitle. One route you can go is always to put it into your living trust, but that's only going to give you a limited amount of safety inside of that. Things like art, some of it can be retitled, but things like jewelry particularly, the easiest recommendation I have found is set up a safety deposit box in the name of the LLC and put stuff inside of it. So any of those little assets you want to store that you can't retitle, I highly recommend taking hold of a safety deposit box. Yeah, Chris, go ahead, bud.
Yeah. Did you mention it, and you might have already, so I apologize, but in terms of your primary residence, is there any kind of protection that would you put that in one of the series? Because I assume that you wouldn't, because you would then, all those benefits that you get from having a primary residence would disappear if it came into a corporate asset.
Yeah, great questions. And it's one we get a lot. So you're exactly right. When you're thinking about your primary residence, kind of the initial pull would be to put it inside the structure. You want to protect it. What's actually going to end up being a harmful thing to your tax burden at the end of the day if you do that. So primary residents in every state have some level of homestead protection on them. Now that level varies by state, but there always is a minimal level of protection at least.
California.
Yeah, please don't get me started on California right now with that. Oof.
No, I lived it. I understand. It's the reason I invest all out of state.
Yeah, it's a mess. So, but with that little level of protection you have, the tax burden can be greatly reduced with some of the deductions you can take as a primary residence owner. And so inside of that, though, if you move it out of your name and strip it from you individually, put it into any type of entity, then you're going to lose the ability to claim those deductions and those homestead protections. And so what we do on those is, if you have full equity, let's have a conversation about it, because maybe that's worth it. You don't need some of the tax benefits that come with it, and you've got too much risk by having full equity. We've got some options like equity stripping and a couple other tools we can use. But the first layer we tell folks
equity stripping, if it's not a real loan, it's kind of more of a paper tiger.
It's a paper tiger.
Enough. There's a lot of really lazy lawyers out there, and if they see anything on title. It's with the home values going up so quickly. A house I bought a year ago, that I live in now, it's gone up 30% and it's outrageous.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. The way the market is.
Yeah. So, could it just be, right now I have it in my trust, just my living trust name. It's titled into it, but it's got to have us as the trustees on there. So, I guess, could I just change it into a different trust and have my living trust be the beneficial interest and have Scott or you or somebody else be the trustee with Esquire behind it? Or is that still going to ruin my tax benefit?
It's going to ruin your tax benefit. So the only exemption is going to be a living trust, right?
Well, can you a living trust just name something else?
You can do that, but you're still going to have the trustee issue that comes into play. And I would not recommend having an attorney as the trustee on a living trust, except in very particular circumstances. So for the most part, you just want to leave it as is and make sure that we're covering up on other strategies we can use. It's also a good conversation to have with your CPA. We have had a couple of CPAs who have said, listen, you don't need these deductions. Let's go ahead and put it.
I need them.
I don't know very many people who don't, but it happens. So
especially with the SALT deduction looking like it's going to go up again, that's going to be huge for California. The other question I had is that, I really like the idea of the series LLC. But if you don't have the land trust to mask it, aren't you restricted on what you can name each series? Don't they have to be the name of the parent, then say like Series A after it or something like that? So if you don't use the land trust, you ruin actually it's the opposite of anonymity. They know everything leads back to the same one. If you have the hub and spoke model, you can name them whatever you want. And, as long as they're not similar, they have to do a whole bunch of digging to find it. So,
no, it's a great point. So I think the misconception inside of that is that there's only one type of revocable trust outside of the living trust, and that's the land trust. And that's not the case. We can use these revocable trusts for whatever we need to, and we can name them how we need to. So, if you've got a trust that, say you don't want to put it directly in the child series, like you said, it's going to expose that series LLC name, but it is a boat. We can make a trust for a boat. It's just a matter of reworking that trust agreement.
Okay. And with stocks and bonds, you just put them into a separate series in this model, and just split it, have multiple if you've got a whole bunch of money and just how much money you're willing to lose kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly, it's what's your risk tolerance kind of matter.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like there's enough? Sorry, I feel like I'm monopolizing the time, but hey, jump in, people, if you got questions, because.
No, it's good. You have good questions. It's.
Thank you. I became familiar with the DST because of you guys.
Mhm.
I've heard of it, but I've heard it for, as most people have, for different purposes, 1031 reasons or others, but not necessarily as this tool. And I get concerned because you guys are the only ones that I've heard talking about this, as a replacement for like an LLC or a series LLC or a hub and spoke. And I'm really interested because, again, I live in California and I've got like 100 rentals. So I don't like paying, for multiple LLCs.
I believe that.
But I get worried when you guys are the only ones that hear about it. There's obviously not a lot of precedents out there in terms of court cases for DSTs.
Mhm.
How do you alleviate that with people who bring that up?
Yeah, I think the one thing is there's a lot of misconceptions about it. With the DST particularly, people often bring up the 7 deadly sins, which I'm sure you've heard of and read about. And so inside of that, one of the 7 deadly sins says that, whoever owns the DST can't take action on anything inside of it. Now, if you were to set it up that way, then you probably are going to run into issues. The way we structure ours, though, and the interaction, the layers that are inside of it, you're going to eliminate those concerns. So that's one, just from a functional standpoint. But 2, one of the things that I think Scott particularly puts a lot of focus on here at Roy Legal is making sure we get as much organizational and government support for the entities we're setting up as we can. And so, for the series LLC and the DST and things like that, he's gone before the state legislatures to get opinion letters, things like that, written up about them. We're constantly reviewing any court cases, and in recent months there have been cases about the DST coming up that have been upheld, and so some of them are still in progress, but once those get finalized a little bit more, we're going to put out a blast about them. But so I think for us, what we're looking at is, okay, so we know the issues that could come up with this DST. How do we draft around that? How do we make sure we're complying? 2, staying up to date with any of the changing legislation or court cases that are coming out about it. And 3 is being an advocate for these structures inside of these larger organization and government type structures. So getting before the state legislations, getting before the law review journals and things like that to gain awareness about it. Because I don't think it's so much an issue of people don't think the DST is a good fit. I think it's people don't understand it. So the more awareness we get around it, the more we're going to be able to alleviate those fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're adding a new rental or such, is that something? How can I put this? I've got a bunch, and we acquire them, we get rid of them. I don't necessarily want to pay an exorbitant fee every time I do that. So is that something that once I've done a number of them through you guys, that the paperwork I can just copy it and it's similar, or is it? You can see what I mean. I can really.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. For the large scale investor who says, listen, after I've seen a couple of these and know how it goes, I don't want to work necessarily. We do always recommend you have a check in place. So having an attorney just, maybe once a year, go through everything, make sure you've drafted it correctly. But we also offer DIY models here at Roy Legal. So if it is something you want to take on your own, we will give you the templates and the ability to be able to draft those yourself. It's a new-ish product. It's something we're still firming up a little bit for things like the DST, where the paperwork's a little bit more complicated. We've offered it for a while for things like traditional LLCs. The caveat to that, though, that I do like to tell people is if you are drafting your own documents, regardless of if you're using a template from us, we do waive liability on that. We say, once it's out of our hands, we can't control it. So like I said, I recommend having an attorney take a check at it, but we'll we can definitely pass the documents along so you can be successful in building it yourself if you want to go that route.
Okay. Well, it was more about where you guys would initiate it and do a number of the properties, but it's not all 100.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely, by the time you're looking at 100, have somebody who's in this space do, 10 of them, and then figure out from there how comfortable you are doing it on your own.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we've got an investor who, I want to say at last I checked like 2 weeks ago, had 293 different child series. And Yeah, I think about number 35. He was like, I may start looking into doing these.
How about flippers? I mean, what do you recommend for flippers? I mean, I flip, a ton of properties, usually about 20, 25 at a time. I mean, is that a model where, each property we purchase, we put in a series, and then, we sell the property, we just dissolve that series and just keep going over and over again? I mean, does that make sense to do that? It sounds like it might.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk tolerance thing when it comes to that. So I will say, I think you might be one of our outlier clients. Most of the time we have clients who are doing flips, they're not holding 25, 30 at a time. But if you have got that many at a time, I wouldn't group them into one LLC. Obviously you're going to have an issue there. You could put them into each individual child series, set up 30, put them in there. As you move them out, drop new ones in it. The issue that you run into that is there is this idea of lingering liability, that if an asset you have sold, an issue comes up with that, then the new asset in that trust is going to be at risk. But that's minimal for the most part, right? So that's where your risk tolerance comes in.
Well, that's why I said dissolve it. You use the series for that flip, and then you never use that particular series again. I mean, there are a lot of people do that with LLCs, so that they just,
absolutely.
You're right. I mean, some of these people are buying LLCs that are really old because they're seasoned, but don't realize that if there's any action in the past against it, you're liable for it. So
yeah, I mean, you definitely can dissolve it though, and just keep pumping them out as you get these new properties. That's not a problem at all. What we see more often is people trying to reuse, like what you were hitting on those. There's just that lingering liability that can be uncomfortable, but it's just what's your risk tolerance on this stuff,
Yeah. What do I do for a 401k? I mean, I've got a self-directed 401k now.
Okay. Is
That
that all? I don't want to get into too much of specific stuff in here in case.
Well, no, this is in relation to this, just in terms of asset protection. I'm concerned about it. Most states give you tons of protection for for retirement accounts, but solo case are specific, or like IRAs, they do not have a risk of protection.
Right.
And in California, a judge can determine how much you need for retirement, and the rest can go to a creditor.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of changing it over to a safe harbor plan, even though I don't have any employees.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any referrals for that, or do you recommend going that route, or do you have some other way to alleviate my concerns of?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We don't. I don't worry too much about the ERISA stuff when it comes to solo 401k. It's been held up enough where there's enough core precedents behind it where I'm not.
But there's no ERISA protection. That's the point.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't worry about the lack of it is what I should worry about.
Okay.
There's enough court precedents where, these retirement vehicles have been upheld that I'm not too terribly concerned about it. There are options though, like you said, the safe harbor option. In the royal tax this week, we got into a couple different ways you can structure your IRA where it is a little bit more protected for things like that. So there are options. We do have referral partners we use for it, but kind of as a default rule, the way we set things up and then the way the courts have looked at them historically, it's not something we worry too much about.
Yeah, I've accumulated a lot of assets in it recently because I just put all my cherry real estate deals in it, and it's gotten to the point where a judge could definitely say, this is more than you need for retirement. So as long as I live in this state, I just feel a little bit paranoid about things that
I believe that. I would say, let's get for you particularly, like maybe you'll hop on a call with Pete, who does the royal tax calls on Tuesdays, but he's also he's just our resident CFO and CPA. He's got some really great ways to think about that kind of thing and alternative investment vehicles for someone who's got as much in it as sounds like you do. So maybe we'll hop on a call with Pete.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anybody else got any other questions today? Or Chris, any more questions?
Probably.
I mean, hey, I appreciate it. I've got the time blocked off. Please let me be a resource for you.
No, it's great, and it's just smart. I've seen too many people that say, "Oh, I just do everything in my personal name. I never had a problem." I'm like, "Well, you're just really, really, really lucky."
You're just waiting on a problem at that point.
Well, yeah, and I mean, a lot of people say, "Well, I'll just have a huge umbrella," and I'm like, that's great, and you should have that.
Sure.
But I mean, let's be honest. Insurance companies will try to get out of it if they can, and you don't want to be exposed. So it's not cheap, but it's not terribly expensive considering the coverage that you get to consider entities like this. So
I did personal injury. I did injury law before I got into real estate and small business stuff. And I'm telling you, man, working with these insurance companies, I had an insurance attorney one time tell me, he was like, if I pay out more than 20% of the policies that my section of the company is sold near, he's like, my job's at risk. And I'm like, oh, I definitely don't want someone thinking like that when I'm dealing with a claim.
Look, and
So-
I've got 2 teenage daughters who are just about to start driving. So
Yeah.
this is another reason I'm starting to think about these things. And living in Orange County, we're all, you could be the most, careful person in the world, but you could hit a breadwinner that makes $1 million a year and leave
Yeah.
behind a wife with a stay-at-home mom with a whole bunch of kids.
Absolutely.
And way more than even a decent umbrella policy. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to think about these things.
No, you're right. I mean, it's something to have. They're pretty inexpensive, but it's definitely not the only thing you want to have set up.
Mhm.
No.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Do you find that people have problems that when they convert, like, let's say you have a lot of assets in stock portfolios and, they're typically in their personal name, or if they're, have a living trust and a living trust name, if it's not in your personal name, then when you try to get a loan and such, do they still consider that an asset that you have direct, since it's not directly tied to your name? Is that an issue you've seen?
It depends on the type of loan. I was actually talking with a guy on the Discord channel about this earlier with the SBA loan stuff. So it depends on who's doing the underwriting, who's looking at it. For the most part, no, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks.
Speaking of the Discord channel, is anybody in here on it? I think Leah, I saw you on it earlier today. Anybody else got any experience with Discord yet?
I signed up on it, but do you have to sign up for each group per se to get on there, or?
That's a great question. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask that because I think I
I
messed
can
all kind of
answer
stuff up
that.
today. Okay.
So Chris, we actually had a little bit of some technical difficulties when it came to that. So we actually made it where all of the groups you are able to access into the one link. And let me just send it in through the chat as well, but this will contain the general where you can connect with all investors, and then it has individual groups where you can connect with anyone related to tax or any of the other groups that we have as well. And you can just throw in all of your questions into there.
Perfect.
We can help you.
You make it so easy with that link too. Perfect.
Yeah, we decided it was easier than a million links because it's easy to get lost in all those.
Perfect.
Yeah, highly recommend checking those out though. It's been neat to see that come up. It makes me feel completely tech inadequate just because I'm like a Slack person and I'm gonna Slack it over real quick. But once I got the hang of it, it's really neat. So
just a quick comment too that thanks for putting all these resources together. These Zoom calls, the Discord. It's especially and I know we're kind of getting teetering on the end of COVID here, but it's still a great way to interact. And before I start going to RIAs again, it's just really adds a sense of community. So appreciate you guys putting that together.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. I mean, I think that's kind of, even on staff, that's the experience I'm having, is I'm enjoying having this community aspect of it. And also, you guys will ask questions on here sometimes, and I'm like, I hadn't thought about that in 3 years. We should make a pamphlet about that at some point. So I think this is a good way to kind of get more of a broader mindset about this stuff. So to that end, we've been telling people, any feedback you have about these shows or the Discord channel, anything we're doing, let us know. I mean, I got 2 emails yesterday with some pretty good feedback and things we were able to implement quickly. And so, for example, I don't think we're gonna have 2 breakout groups moving forward in these. I think we're gonna do 1 breakout group. Because some of the feedback we had is that, for people who are introverted, it's a little bit of fatigue by the time the second breakout group is done. But we're going to test a couple things out. All that to say, if you have feedback, let us know. We'd love to hear it.
I would shorten the number of questions. You have the 7 questions, and in 10 minutes, if you have 3 or 4 people, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
And then also somebody like me who's been in a few groups, and it's the same questions for all of them. I don't know, maybe more focused toward the particular topic, and just have 1 or 2 questions just to bring it up.
Yeah, that's kind of, we started out doing just a general topic question and then moved into these more specific ones. And I think there's probably a hybrid model somewhere in there where it's like, give us name, location, and then there's 1 rotating question depending each week, But thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good flag. Well, guys, we got about 3 minutes left. Anybody have any other questions I can answer for you, though? I want to make sure you're getting value out of these.
I got a quick question, Megan, Charlie. Yeah. So regarding the DST versus the series LLC, versus a hub and spoke type model, right? Something like that. Do you folks have a layout or something that you guys already have structured or set up that we can look at that says, okay, if you are looking at these kind of investments, right, with a diversified portfolio, it's good to have this structure. You look at it here, you got this kind of investments. this is a good structure. You got, something like that, because I know that we have an idea of the series and we have an idea of the DST.
Yeah.
But some of us are in discussion about the fact that this is the reason why I asked that question the other day about, is it okay to have more than one type of structure depending on what your portfolio looks like and what kind of protections you're looking for? Because ultimately for us, it's the paramount, thing we're looking for is protection, right?
Yeah.
We want the flexibility, like Chris was talking about earlier, where, if you're looking at fix and flips as one area, and then you have buy and holds, and some of your buy and holds are pretty extensive.
Yeah.
Do you have it in the same type of structure? And so, or if I have crypto, right? How do you, we talk about holding it there, but when you're doing the investment, you're actually starting the investment and you're getting ready to do it. A lot of people don't realize you go into the crypto, you invest in initially, and then you're setting it up after the fact. You're already, out there already, as far as that's concerned. So how do you protect those things, right? Before you start crypto, get this set up, this kind of structure. Of the two, this is probably the most ironclad, etc. So,
no, that's a
just
great question.
Yeah, because there's some of us who have a really diversified portfolio, and then there's some who have, just maybe just starting or keeping very simple ones.
Yeah.
But, I have a very complex portfolio. This is the reason why I was asking about this stuff. Yeah. And we've been talking about it with the advising team, right? So everybody's kind of not stumped, but we're looking at it we're kind of taking a different angle.
Yeah.
To move from the simple fact that, okay, I said, it's all, you come across all these different scenarios as entrepreneurs and as investors. What happens in what period of time along the way as you evolve, right?
Absolutely.
And how complicated can your structure become, if you start here and then you move to here, like towards retirement more, not necessarily retired, but just your type of activities, right? Consolidation of activities versus a lot of active, income activities,
No, that's a good flag. I mean, and I think that kind of what I'm hearing is, how do I make sure I set things up correctly on the front end, but also how I know how to pivot and extend when I move into new stuff later on. And so what does that look like? So, that's kind of the goal where we're headed with these. So I mentioned at the front end that we're going to start recording these like investor persona specific ones. So eventually there will be hubs of Royal Legal where you go to and you can kind of feel out, okay, well, I'm in crypto, here's exactly what I need, or I'm in stocks, here's what I need, or I'm in mixed crypto and stocks, here's what I need. So we're in the process of creating those assets and hopefully have that really delineated out for you guys. In the meantime, until those get published, I would say, let's just talk to your advisor and figure out the best way to go about it. Because kind of like you mentioned, who knew crypto? Like, what was it? It got big, I think, like 2014. 2013, if someone said, I'm going to invest a ton of money in crypto, how do I hold it? I'd be like, I don't know what crypto is. So,
right, exactly.
Yeah. So it's learning to pivot and build things out as we go. So we're working on it. I think we're probably still in the early stages, but these shows are really instrumental in it. And, the more asset classes you guys tell us you're interested in, we can tailor that even more.
Yeah, because what I'm looking at is from the perspective of crypto, I've been holding back some of the investments, some of the things I was sharing, and I don't want to get too specific, but just in generality for everybody's knowledge. When you're looking at investing crypto, as far as getting involved in crypto, right, depending on how extensive you're getting into that realm, then the question is it safer, is it better to go and invest it from a trust position or from a series position, or not a series position, but an LLC position, right?
Yeah.
So, that's the question, because when you're running estates, or you're doing fund management or stuff like that, then you also want to keep that anonymity there, as much as possible. But your investments can be pretty extensive, and the question is, where do I invest it from? What is that phase, right? And so timing is everything. In investments, timing is paramount, right? So. That's so when you talk about structure, that's the point I'm trying to get to. Is what structure do we use to invest that? But if I change this and I'm investing on the real estate side, I want to do a lot more fix and flips now, but I want to keep it separate from the rest of my asset base with respect to buy and holds or commercial real estate. or industrial real estate, or your entrepreneur companies, right? And all those assets, then,
Yeah.
do you have separate structures for that? Because I'm the first one to tell you, I want to have as simple a taxation process as possible. So I like that part of the series and or the DST to have that one, tax return type scenario. But you're looking at it from two different ends, right? From the taxation side and then from the investment side.
Right.
So, the protection. Yeah, protection is probably the most paramount piece for us because we want to protect the wealth and retain it. Yeah.
Sure.
How much we get to keep at the end of the day, not how much we make, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think, foundationally, typically what our my go-to response on that would be is like, yeah, if you're in California, a DST, we can scale it and use it for anything you're going to put in it. If you're outside of California, a series would be, but you're right. Like, what if we hit an asset where you really do need to separate it out? Like maybe you've got fix and flips you don't want in with your buy and holds. So I think when it comes to that, like having a close relationship with your team, particularly your advisor, is the way to navigate that until we get these assets out. But, it's something, I mean, the stuff that people are getting into these days is evolving so wild. Someone told me about a crypto punk yesterday for the first time and how much those things are going for. And it's like a little emoticon. I'm like, what? It blows my mind. But so,
An NFT, yeah.
yeah, I mean, like this stuff, like the crypto punk NFTs I've dealt with, but this crypto punk idea, I was like, he showed me which one he bought, and I'm like, golly.
Why? Yeah.
But as stuff evolves, we're gonna keep having this conversation of what's the best way to hold it and try to streamline as much as we can. But you're right, there's gonna be times we have to pivot. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to that on that. Guys, I do apologize. I gotta hop. I got a meeting in a minute. But thank you all for showing up today. These are fun. Next week, I think our topic's the DST maybe next week. I'll have to check, but check the emails, make sure you sign up for everything. I think you guys all are. So, but appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. Bye.
Morning.